way that photography and video worked in that instance is we were serving through the local church and teaching photography and video, basically as a skill for business. And non-believers, Muslims, were coming into the church to get that training and get those skills that we were able to provide in a 3-week time period, and through that also be exposed to Christians, to believers, to our faith and the gospel in Jesus Christ.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Living Enviado podcast. Today we're going to the Texas-Mexico border again. If you remember a few months ago, I did that with a brother named Victor. If you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend it because it gives a viewpoint about the border between the U.S. and Mexico and what's taking place, especially from a living sent perspective, from a ministry perspective. But today we're going to be talking with Billy. Billy is a missionary at the Rio Grande Bible Institute, and he teaches and mentors students from many Spanish-speaking countries in the area of media ministry. So we're going to get to him and just learn about what God is doing and how God is using media around the world. So without further ado, let's just get to the episode. Let's get to talking with Billy, and so let's get at it. Hey, Billy, I want to get to this question. I'm very curious about it. And we'll just call it like this. You're an Anglo working at a Spanish-speaking school near the Texas-Mexico border. And I'm just curious how someone like you became the director of media at the Rio Grande Bible Institute.
Well, first off, I love living here in the middle between two cultures, basically. After learning Spanish, it unlocks like this new culture and actually lots of different cultures, because there's so many different countries of South America, Central America, and we have students from all those countries here. But as far as how I got here, it was just because I was asking the Lord, how can I use my camera in missions, in your kingdom work? How can I use my camera to help tell stories of what you're doing around the world? And I got to go on a lot of different mission trips, serving in Japan, Indonesia, and other places. But this was the first place where there was a long-term opportunity. They were looking for someone to come and serve as a photographer, videographer. At the time, there was someone else directing the department. But by the time I finished raising support and got here to learn Spanish, that person was gone. And so by the time I finished the language program, I was moving right into leading the media team.
So you're fluent in Spanish. Unfortunately, I'm not. My wife is, but I am not. That's what
Spanish is amazing. I could not learn any of it in high school, but when you have to learn, when it's a make or break and you're living among the people that you're trying to learn the language for, it helps a lot.
That's why I know Mandarin, because I was, like you said, make or break. Even though my wife is Hispanic, it wasn't make or break because her English it's just perfect, really. So you have, in addition to you being called to this, you talked about how just God brought you as you were praying, trying to just find out how God wanted you to use your skills in the video business, and we'll get into more of that. But you do have a family that is with you in this.
Yeah, that was part of the adventure. So I was asking the Lord, okay, Lord, is this possible for me to be like full-time in ministry as a media ministry, missionary, basically, not just, part-time or whatever. And I began, I applied to be basically a missionary, a member here with Rio Grande, and then decided I wanted to get married.
Oh, okay.
So then we got married, and then we raised support for 3 years. And by the time we got here, we had 2 little ones, like 2 years old and 1 year old. And now we have 4. We have 4 ages 4 through 10. So now part of the adventure has been learning to do ministry together. We homeschool our kids. We live on campus. We're trying to teach them Spanish. Yeah, that's been part of the growing process. But yeah, it was originally my idea was I'm going to be a single missionary, and this is what my life is going to be dedicated to. And the Lord helped change my mind about that. and my now wife changed my mind.
So you were already committed to going there before you met her?
I knew her because she was part of my local church.
Okay.
But I went on a mission trip with her and saw her heart for missions, her love for adventure, and realized, okay, she's quiet, but she's also brave and strong. And and yeah, fell in love with her. And then so once I let the ministry here know, kind of put fundraising on pause, got married, and then she had to apply as well because they wanted to know we were both on board with serving full time in ministry here. And then we began raising support. So it made the support raising process a little bit longer and the road here a little bit longer, but it was worth it in the long run. So
So I'm curious about the mission trip. Where did y'all go?
here to the
Oh,
valley.
there. Okay.
Yeah, not to Rio Grande Bible Ministry specifically, but we were partnering with Spanish churches here in the valley that didn't have a pastor or who were trying to reach their community, and it was a small team, so like we were working together a lot, um, and that resulted because some of the mission work we were doing with our local church from Missouri. So I'm from Missouri, St. Louis area. We had been in Mexico, and then there was all the cartel violence that started up in 2010 through 2012, and we couldn't continue going into Mexico. We actually, our last trip, we were actually stopped by the cartel and asked, okay, what are you doing here? What's going on? And we're like, oh, okay. So that but it was in Tamaulipas. It was the state nearest to the border here. So then we began doing some mission trips here in the valley.
Okay.
We call it the valley, the Rio Grande Valley. That's the RGV.
Okay. I'm sorry. You can't just passively, mention the car. I mean, what did the cartel do when they stopped you?
They were very okay. So we ran into the good guys of
Okay.
the yeah. So they're obviously all drug cartels, but there's some sides that are more violent and some that are less violent, I guess. But it was kind of our own fault. We didn't really know what we didn't think through what we were doing. We were caravanning with a big truck, a 15 passenger van, and then another van with a trailer behind it, all from one town where there was no church. There were just the first of believers and a Bible study beginning. And we, on a Sunday morning, we were taking them to a town that did have a church. So like this is going to be like their first time for some of them being at a Christian church. And as we pull into town with our little caravan, there were three black trucks, with men, and they just want to know, who are you? Are you coming in? Like what's going on here? Is this a rival cartel or something? So once we said, oh, we're going to church. I was in the back, so obviously our leader and translator were probably a little bit more shook up than I was. I'm just like, what's going on? And yeah, they took off and we went to church, but we cut that mission trip a little bit short. And that was right as some of the violence between two rival cartels was beginning in that area. So yeah.
That's interesting. We had an episode a couple of weeks ago, and the Mark Hernandez, he's from the Dallas area. So his parents are from Mexico, and I think he was born in the U.S., but he talked about his father was actually a member of the cartel.
Oh wow.
And
Oh, I saw you had that episode. I need to go listen to it.
yeah,
Yeah, that
he was
sounds really
even
interesting.
he was even personally as a teenager threatened by the cartel, which forced him to have to do some things for them, or else they were going to do stuff to his mom and his family after his father had already
Hmm.
left him. So his father had already left him, abandoned them, went back to Mexico to just work for the cartel, and so they called him up and threatened them, and so he had to do stuff for him. But it was actually through that he met someone and ended up finding Christ through that whole ordeal.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really, I'd have to admit, crossing the border over there it's really not on my bucket list right now, just because of
Hey,
what you just talked about.
if you come visit, I will take you. I will take you and we'll go get good tacos. As long as you have good contacts and you know where you're going, it's going to be all right.
I was supposed to be there next month, but I actually had to cancel. Or I
Oh.
guess next month, according to this recording, which is in September, but I had to cancel because I'm actually heading down to Bogota and over
Oh.
to Ecuador. I am curious, just going back to the school, the Rio Grande, is it Rio Grande Bible Institute or what's the
It
actual
is
name?
not. So we start off as Rio Grande Bible Institute, and so that would be RGBI. A lot of the people here, local, still call it RGBI, but we got accredited a couple decades back, and they changed the name, and so now officially we are Seminario Bíblico Rio Grande. You could translate that to Rio Grande Bible College, and except that now we just added a master's program, so it's like, okay, are we Rio Grande Bible Seminary? Anyway, Seminario Bíblico Rio Grande Bible Ministries, those both work. Rio Grande Bible Institute, we've left that name behind, except that a lot of people still call us that.
That's what I keep hearing. That's why I was a little bit confused because your email was saying something else, but I was like, everybody calls it RGBI.
Because I mean, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of missionaries who have come through here and gone out, either to the Spanish-speaking world, or people who have come as Latin Americans, got their training, and have gone to the mission field. So there's a lot of a lot of people out there still calling it RGBI.
Actually, before I get into my next question, since you brought it up, why don't you just share a little bit of just about the school? Like, what is its
Mm-hmm.
purpose? Who do you teach? Like, what are the predominant student body? What's the makeup of it? Things like that. Just let everyone know. I think it's an interesting school.
Yeah, so it's small, and it's gotten a little smaller in recent years with a lot of visas being denied. But there's about 100 students on campus, over 100 more studying online, all in Spanish. So it's a 4-year accredited bachelor's degree in Bible. We've just recently, in the last couple of years, added a master's program, and it's to train them to be pastors or missionaries or Christian educators. And recently, we've added a bilingual ministries emphasis, so they can kind of pick their emphasis and be trained, yeah, in the area that the Lord is calling them. We function as missionaries, so like the professors and the media staff and the president. We have our support teams, churches that have sent us, and individuals who have sent us to do this work. That helps us to keep the cost affordable for our Latin American brothers and sisters who are coming for the training. And the last statistic I heard is about 70% end up back in their home countries, to either plant churches or pastor, and things like that. And then about the other 30% are head to the mission field. The Lord is calling and moving the Latin American church to send missionaries out into the world. We've seen a heart for Muslim countries growing, but sometimes Asia or Southern Asia or other places. And then more and more, we need Spanish speaking pastors here in the US. We have more Spanish speakers in the US than any other country in the world except for Mexico, but we don't have a lot of solid churches or pastors who are ready to pastor those churches. So it's a need that's growing here. It's growing so fast that that like our little college can't meet all of that need, but that is part of what the Lord is doing here.
It's interesting. You said 30% are tends to go to the mission field. So I would assume that's outside their home country, or does that also include
Right.
in their home country?
The percent is they're in another country. So
Okay.
sometimes you're right. They do go back to their home country, and they are in missions because they're reaching indigenous people groups or things like that. But the statistic, I think, specifically is speaking to people who are sent out or go out to another country beside their home country.
Yeah, because I've met a student, a graduate of your school in the Middle East. Of course, I've taken a couple of graduates, mutual friends of ours, with me to the Middle East, and then you've also taken some on a short-term trip, and then actually that's why I'm heading down to Colombia and Ecuador, is to talk with some former graduates about one family is actually looking to move to the Middle East. Another one, Julian, they're building a team down there of how to mobilize Colombian churches and just
Mm.
working with them. And so I'm going down there just to they invited me to come see what I could do to help and assist in what they're doing. So I do find it exciting, even though you said you only have 100 students, so that's not a very big school. But even with 100 students, you guys do have a very intentional like program and strategy to equip students or to help them think globally.
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned that, you know, you mentioned in the U.S. there's also a growing need of equipped pastor or trained pastors. And of course, there's
Mm-hmm.
obviously needs back in their home countries, which sometimes we tend, if we're a very small organization or a very small group of people, we tend to focus just on ourselves. But I really do like that your school has that intentional program to say, hey, look, yes, we have these needs within our own communities, but there's also these needs globally that God is calling this the Hispanic church to be involved with as well, which
Mm-hmm.
I find exciting. So
It is.
I'm
It is exciting.
Yeah, because that's why you have these conferences every year of trying to expose your students to what God is doing around the world. And I think if I understood it correctly, one of your graduates, she went with me to the Middle East last year, and she's actually doing something in her home country down in South America, while also being bivocational. Like she's been able to bring the two together to be
Hmm.
bivocational while also helping her church and I guess the network of churches she's in to just see what God's doing around the world, and hopefully we'll see more Hispanics go out. So that's.
Yeah, yeah. It's built into the mission statement here. So training, we exist to train Christ-centered leaders with a biblical worldview for the global church. And just last week, I was recording a podcast, an episode for our podcast here with one of the students in Spanish, and he was explaining how his emphasis is Christian education, but when he got here, he realized for the first time the Great Commission is not just for missionaries. It's for the whole church. It's for everyone. And it was like the first time he was understanding that, and he was sharing that with me. It's like just pretty cool that he was grasping that. And yes, this is like definitely feels like a missional hub in a lot of ways. It's a cool place to be.
So where does the media department come into play in all this? It's a predominantly Bible-based school training pastors. So where does this media department come into play?
Yeah, it's just the fact that an institution and ministry like this has media needs and opportunities to tell stories. That's what drew my interest, the opportunity to tell stories of what God is doing. And so we don't have like, it's not like a media training program. I'm running a media department that gives media support in video, photography, graphic design, social media for Rio Grande Bible Ministries, which includes the Bible College, the radio station, Rio Grande Global, and then we also have our like Winter Texan volunteer program that comes here. So there's technically four ministries, and our team is providing media support for all of them. But my team, um, actually, for the first time this last year, I have another staff member on my team helping me with administration and stuff like that, and some editing. But besides that, it's been all student workers. So in these 8 years that we've been here, it's a lot of training and teaching and helping them grow, so that I'm multiplying myself here. And then the Lord has really blessed and just helped me as the years go by to see the fruit of that on the mission field. Is like when they go out, they have those skills. And they a lot of times they come in with something. Like I'm recruiting the ones that have an interest or some kind of experience with photography or video and stuff like that. And then, but they're growing in their 4 years here, and then they get to use those skills as part of their ministry on the mission field. You mentioned Julian. He is the best example because that's why he came, and that's when he first came. I recruited him right to my team. I had already met him, and that was his whole desire, was to be a media missionary. And but there have been others as well. And yeah, so okay, so that's how the media department fits in. I see it as helping further the work of the Lord's kingdom, but also telling the church what like showing the church what God is doing to expand His kingdom.
How active? So when the students graduate, the ones who come who are part of your program in the media department, how active are they in continuing that? Because I don't know the statistics as far as who actually goes, who leaves and becomes a pastor versus maybe going into the secular workforce or serving
Hmm.
abroad. But I mean, we mentioned Julian, and he's
Hmm.
working to
Hmm.
use media to mobilize people in his own country of Colombia. So, but beyond Julian, what would be like some other? Do you have any other examples of people who are using it? Students who have gone on just like
Yeah.
Julian has done.
Yeah, for most of them, it's not their main ministry. It's something that they bring to whatever church or ministry that they're part of. But there are a few definitely that stand out. Jensen, who was here when I first got here and had a lot of experience, he went on to serve in the media for a church with multiple locations, and was serving there just as their basically director of media for a multi-campus church. And then but he's also grown to where now he is also pastoring one of those churches while also providing media support, for like live streaming their sermons, for promotional videos and stuff. And then another student more recently, um, is in South America and partnered up with some other graduates for starting a podcast. And she contacted me, and I was able to give her some advice on a camera and a kit to purchase. She had saved up a lot to be worked hard to be able to purchase her own equipment, and then now is serving um, another ministry that a couple started there with. It's kind of like a podcast and training, like mobilization videos again, for the Latin American church. And then another example is, which this is different, kind of like you mentioned with the secular ministry option, is his name is Alex. He is um, basically working almost like a freelance editor for like a YouTuber influencer, for a YouTube influencer that's not Christian. But what that does is allows him to work from anywhere in the world, and he can go on mission trips. He can serve the church in different places in Mexico and the US and South America while he's doing his work of editing for like a social media influencer. So those are a few examples that come to mind. I generally get messages and calls every once in a while, like, Billy, I need help. Like, what do I need to do to make this live stream work? Or what camera should I purchase? Or different things like that happen. And that's fun. It is uh it is a privilege to get to assist them even once they're on the field in little ways, and help them continue in the media work that they're doing.
That's cool to hear that someone is actually graduating from your school and they're going on working for a social media influencer, in the media area. And yeah, I mean that's one of the things I love, because I do talk a lot about working in the secular environment and applying those skills in such a way where you can do ministry and leveraging that. So his way of doing it is just another way of doing it. But I think you also pointed out that some of them go off to be pastors, and then
Hmm.
as pastors, you're also applying their media, the education they receive from you, the help they've received from you to learning how to do this. Because we all saw during COVID, if you didn't
Hmm.
have your media set up, you were like racing to try to catch up. I mean, I just saw so many churches like that. My church already had it all
Hmm.
set up. They had not planned for that, but they had someone invest a lot of money into equipment and stuff in our church to make sure that we could provide, something online. So
Right,
it's
right.
it's it is true that even if they don't do it as a profession, it is a need, and a lot of pastors don't have the staff to actually pull it off. So they need to have some skills. I do know, as we mentioned earlier, you have done some mission trips with students in your school. I know at least the one I'm aware of was in the Middle East. I know
Hmm.
you took some students with you. Why don't you just share a little bit? You don't have to, share where you went or anything like that, but just, I guess, give an idea of how you were able to use your media skills in that environment, because it was a bit of a tricky environment for someone with a camera, but
Hmm.
you were still able to pull it off. There was still interest, and you were still able to be around people and to point them to Christ. So why don't you just kind of give us a brief
Okay.
overview of what that looked like?
Okay. So that trip specifically to the Middle East was a highlight of my life, and I hope to grow in that. And I want to grow towards telling stories of the church around the world. But specifically, that opportunity, well, one, I was able to take my whole family, so that was awesome. Two, I was able to take a student with me, and so they were able to grow in that and through that experience, and were really a huge asset in being able to serve in that opportunity. But it was through the local church, really, and the way that photography and video worked in that instance is we were serving through the local church and teaching photography and video as basically as a skill for business. And non-believers, Muslims, were coming into the church to get that training and get those skills that we were able to provide in a 3 week time period, and through that also be exposed to Christians, to believers, to our faith and the gospel in Jesus Christ. And that was really amazing. Just basically to be able to partner with the local church, bringing what we had, and then obviously also the opportunity to document a little bit of that, just um, to live it, and then to be able to report back here what the Lord did, and at the same time be furthering that church, that local church's ministry to reach the lost. In that instance, the need wasn't so much, hey, come and record video for us. It was come and teach, which was a kind of an extension of what I was already doing here. So that was really cool. Um, there's been a few there. There's been a few other opportunities, not outside of the Middle East, where it's easier, like South America, to go and serve with
Hmm.
creating videos for ministries and stuff like that. And then just recently, we are really praying because there is a country in Asia where I have been asked to go and assist, through creating a video that would show the need for a pastor training center in a country hard to access, and the local pastor there goes into the mountains to train pastors. And so that's what we're praying about right now. I know that's not what you asked, but if you could be praying for us, because I really want to go. The question is, should I take my family with me again, like we did on that other trip, or do I just need to go with maybe one of my student workers, and get this project done as quick as possible? But anyway, yes, those opportunities to use the skills the Lord has given me around the world. That's kind of our family dream, that we would be able to grow into doing that ministry together.
Two things, two observations I just made. Number one, I hear people say, "Well, I can't do that because I have small kids." Your kids, you said your kids right now are 2 to 10. Is that right?
Well, they're 4 to 10.
Four
When
to
we went
ten.
on that trip, I was sharing about, yeah, their smallest was like two. Yeah.
So kids do great on trip. Now, obviously, there's some places you don't want to. I wouldn't take my kids to North Korea, or, there's certain countries I would never take them. However,
Hmm.
I think especially where you went, it was fine, and I think kids do great on those trips. Yes, there's challenges with having small kids. When we moved to China, my son had just turned 1 and my daughter was 2. So yes, there were challenges with that in adjusting, adapting, and just finding a new normal. But they did well, and I've seen families bring small kids on mission trips. So I know this isn't really part of the conversation, but I just wanted to highlight that because, let's just remove that as an excuse. That's really not a deal breaker. In fact, it
Mm,
actually, I think, enhances the ministry over even someone who's obviously singles have advantages in some other ways. But I always find that kids, when we lived in China, having our kids around the people we were serving and just interacting with day to day, it enhanced our ministry
mm,
because of their involvement and they people over they just love small kids.
mm-hmm,
There's just
mm-hmm.
something about that communal culture that loves kids, and they just bring so much to life in what we do. So and the second thing, going to Asia again, not really part of the topic, but I do find it cool that you're looking at it because it's just another. I think it highlights that we have these skills that God wants to use, and while to many degrees we've got to use it to take care of our families on one side, on the other side, God wants to use them for ministry purposes. Which kind of leads me to my next question because I am curious. I mean, you clearly got the skills. You talked about training kids in video, recording, editing, camera, photography, graphic design, just multimedia, just in general. I mean, you've got some skill sets that could just go out there. You could probably find an incredible job that makes a ton load of money. I mean, seriously, you probably could, and you've got the skill set. So why not pursue that, and why pursue where you're at? I mean, doesn't
Mm,
God want you to take care of your family?
mm. Okay, all right. Interesting way to put the question. So yeah, I could. So I was working as a wedding photographer before, and I could have pursued building that business and other things. And also, just to clarify, like I'm not a graphic designer, but I find students that have skills in those areas and try to give them tools to grow and I manage them. My skills are more generally more with the camera. Um, but okay, so when the Lord saved me, I was later in my teenage years. I was trying to figure out. I was in the middle trying to figure out what to dedicate my life to, and it didn't. There was no career that was worth dedicating my whole life to, and that's part of the way that the Lord saved me. He's like, no matter what you build, how big you build it or how great you are, it's all going to pass away. It's not worth it in the end. And but anything done for the Lord's kingdom, the smallest thing, is part of something eternal that will never pass away. And obviously that can be in serving people through business and in other ways, but that's what the Lord used to guide me towards, okay, how could I use these skills in kingdom work? And that's what I really wanted to dedicate my life to. And it does require embracing another part of ministry, which is being an ambassador to churches and to individuals, saying, this is what God is doing. And we want to invite you to give us money so that we can do it, so that we can be part of it. And that can be a challenge because it's like, I don't like marketing and things like that. I like authenticity. I like storytelling. But if you look at it the right way, um, we're all children of the King, and we're all His soldiers commissioned into His work, into His working in the harvest. So I'm inviting others to be part in what this opportunity that God has given us, and the Lord has been good to take care of us. Um, so I guess basically it comes down to, if the Lord allows and if the church responds through giving, I want to dedicate all my time to this. I don't want to be distracted by having to um, make earn a living and build up a business in certain ways. The way that the Lord has given us allows us to focus all our time on giving to the church, giving to missions and ministries through our skills, through our time, and what He's given us. It's really interesting because I was just talking with a brother in Christ who has a documentary film school and training that he does, and it was really interesting the training he offers and some of the skills and stuff. I think it could be helpful for me learning from him in a lot of ways. But one thing we can really skip over is we don't have to go find funding just to live and exist and do the planning and development for a project. We are already funded for that. We can concentrate all our efforts on what needs to be done, what stories need to be told. And then yeah, sometimes like this trip to Asia I'm hoping to go on, I need to raise additional funds for that trip, but I don't have to raise funds, or I don't have to be making money for just continuing in the everyday day-to-day ministry and work that I'm doing right now. So anyway, those are that's some of the reason and way that I look at it.
I asked that question because I'm a big advocate for business. I'm a big advocate for kind of getting this a next generation, another generation of just thinking beyond just the traditional means of
Mm.
missionary work. But with that said, I also recognize there are needs for more of a traditional route because, like you said, if you were running a business, if you were still having the photography business, you may not be able to invest in these students as much as you do right now. And
Hmm.
that's a need, to work in the schools, to be able to pour into them. So there is a need for people like you, people like, really, that's been my life up till now. And it's just now that I'm starting kind of a different track of moving, kind of adding a business side to what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But there is still a need for believers to think about, what does God want me to do? Because you made the statement, God takes care of you. Okay,
Hmm.
he's taking care of you, he's taking care of your family, he's providing for your needs. And as long as his grace allows and provides, and the church gives and responds to what God is doing through you, through your family, then why not go the route you're on right now? And so, I would just encourage people to think, as you're looking at your career, just this mindset of, well, I do a certain thing because God tells me to take care of my family. Well, that also has to apply to someone like Billy. It also has to apply to other people like us who have had to raise support in the past. Okay, God knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants and where he wants them. Yes, I advocate for business, but there's some logistical reasons for that, living abroad in difficult countries. But Billy's in Texas. Okay, he's working at a Bible school. It is equipping students. It's a full-time job. It's not a part-time, I'll get to it when I can kind of job. It's either you're either all in or you're not. I mean, there's not much wiggle room to that. So, I mean, you have talked a little bit about what students are doing. I mean, what is your vision for the students that you work that you mentor? What's your vision for them? What's your vision for when they graduate? I mean, not specifically for them to do a certain type of job, but like, what do you desire to see them do ultimately as they come through your under your leadership, under your discipling?
Okay, that's a good question. I guess I it's the Lord is growing me in that vision because up till now it's just very practical and straightforward. It's in order to have a well functioning department, I need them to be growing into leaders of projects first. So first they're learning; they're just 100% learning, trying to soak in everything. They learn on the job by working with me and working with other students that have come in before them. But then they need to learn how to lead projects, like be responsible. Like, hey, this is a project, a testimony video or an information video for the academic department, and I need you to be responsible and take initiative in getting this project done. And then from there, and the Lord has really grown me in this over the years. I have my team leads. So I have a team lead for video, for graphic design, uh, for um, for our live streaming. I have another lead, and for photography at the moment, I'm kind of acting as a lead, even though at different times I've had had someone as the lead, and so now they're leading others and how and responsible for keeping those various projects moving forward. And so really, yeah, they're learning a lot of media skills, but they're also learning a lot of responsibility skills like showing up on time, communicating, responding to communication. That's something that almost every semester is one of our values that we highlight is good communication internally as a team and then externally to the different ministries that we're trying to serve. If we're not intentional in communicating with them, projects just fall through. Everyone is so busy doing the work. This is how ministry, I think, is in general. Everyone's doing what God's given them to do to handle another project, um, like making a video or and things like that. We have to be intentional to in that communication. So those are by the time they graduate, yeah, they have media skills, but I think some of the biggest skills they have is how to lead others with love and humility and service through through communication, through being ready to serve, through looking for opportunities to tell stories and to serve others. So um, and then when they graduate again, some of them, it's kind of like it's already in their mind they want to use media some way in ministry in the future. And then for others it's more like this is my calling, what God has given me to do, but now I have this other skill that I'm taking with me that could be part of what God has given me to do in the future. So yeah, but the I guess my it's kind of interesting. They're going to learn the media by the skills with the camera, with the lights, with the microphones and stuff like that because they're here working with me and with my team. The things that I've had to be super intentional with over the years is um, teaching them lovingly and at the same time firmly. Like just that how to discipline and correct, how to say no, showing up late is not being responsible, or not letting me, like, tell me when there's a problem or when something goes wrong, and let's figure out a solution. Let's figure out, do we need to re-record? Can we save it? Do we need to be creative with projects and stuff like that? So a lot of those life skills that turn into, which again, like, I guess without realizing it, goes back to the mission statement of the school, um, which is Christ-centered leaders with a biblical worldview for the global church. And they learn a lot of that in the classroom, obviously, and in their local, the practical ministry program in the local churches. But the Lord has been teaching me how I'm part of that as well through the student work program.
I love that it's going beyond just the trade part of media, and it's going deeper into communication and just the kind of the really the it's almost like the relational side of it. There's part of that's relational side of just how to interact with people, respect people's time, being responsible. That's always communication. I always find communication is one of my biggest pet peeves, with people because I don't think schools do enough to teach that. I
And here we have this cross cultural thing going on as
mm,
well. This is recently, it's been highlighted to me and in my department how, you know for us, email is official communication. Like calendar invite, that's pretty, like, expect a response. We need, like, that has to work. That's official. Like, this is official information you are being given. And then verbal is like confirmation or like ideas. But for the Latino, a lot of times it's reverse. It's like the electronic communication, that's the, oh, that's nice, that's, or whatever. But face to face, that's what I'm depending on. And so just that kind of learning to work with the communication standards and practices of different cultures, that's part of what we're working through as well.
Well, that's good to know for me as I increase my communication with Latinos. That's that's really good to know. You mentioned earlier your podcast. I want to
Yeah.
highlight that. I was just looking at it online before we got on, and you have two. You have a Spanish and an English version of it. I was looking at the English, but I didn't see your face as far as the host. So what's going on
Mm,
there? I know you started it.
mm. You were looking at the English one,
Yes, the
you
on.
said? Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Entre hermanos.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really all together. So um, instead of creating two podcast platforms, we just on Fridays are the Spanish episodes, and on Saturdays are the English episodes, and then on Wednesdays we put our chapel sermons because we kind of have like a series that we go through. So we put the just the teaching part there. Um, so I'm still doing the English, and actually now I'm doing the English and Spanish. So I had a student worker who was handling all the Spanish side, and I was doing the English, and now I'm doing both. But I guess I'm taking the camera off me more. Maybe some of the episodes you were watching recently, I've been just focusing more on the guest, and some of them have been like this because in this last season we were really focusing on alumni, the work going out in the world. Where are they? And that was a challenge because like finding them, connecting with them, scheduling. It's a lot easier whenever they're on campus and you can just go track them down and be like, hey, let's record. So so yeah, so I don't know which episodes you were watching, but it's still me. But I'm not, um, I guess, showing my face necessarily as much, especially in this new season. So I'm right now recording season 5. We're calling it season 5. We're coming back on campus, and I'm recording in the coffee shop instead of here in the studio. I'm recording over in the coffee shop on campus, and it's still testimony based. So this whole time, it's like testimonies, life stories, like how did God save you? How did God move you here? What is God doing with you in ministry now? But now it's what has God taught you from His Word lately? How has God's Word impacted you recently? And it could be from class or from personal devotions or from the church, but something based on the Word and how it's impacted your life. So that's what I'm recording right now over in the coffee shop. And again, I'm not in the camera at all. It's a conversation, me with the students, so they're not like having to talk to a camera, but it's just and it's not just students and staff, students and missionaries, but the camera's just focused on them. So I've really enjoyed it because the podcast, I guess we started a couple years ago now, going on 3 years maybe. We celebrated our second anniversary last spring, and because it allows me time to sit down and talk with people and get their story. What is God doing in their life? What has God done in their life? I really appreciate that part because a lot of our work is like 5-minute videos, 3-minute videos, that kind of thing.
Well, congrats on the 2-year anniversary.
Thank you.
And where can people find the podcast?
Entre Hermanos. So if they it looks like Entre Hermanos. There we go. I'll say it with some gringo accent there.
Say.
Entre Hermanos, which means between brothers. And if you add the podcast Rio Grande, it'll be the first thing to pop up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or wherever. If you just put Entre Hermanos, there's a few other channels that pop up. If you add Rio Grande, it'll be the first thing. It'll be the first thing to pop up. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay, so I have one final question. So this is more of how can you challenge the audience? You know, in the theme of living sent or living enviado, which is what we like to talk about, just about how God is using people all over the world in different aspects of their careers and ministry. So what would you say? I know you're not speaking to a bunch of media people. Probably most of the people listening are not. But what would you say to them, or how would you challenge them to live sent?
Yeah. Enviado, even the title is in Spanish, right? So I think I would right now. It's fresh on my mind. I don't know if I mentioned this while we were recording, but maybe just before. I think I did mention it, that one of the students that I was just recording, um, he was sharing how his calling is to be a Christian educator, but he realized coming here that the Great Commission in Matthew 28 is for all believers, not just for missionaries. Because up until this time, he had viewed that as, well, that's a special call for missionaries to take the gospel into all the world, teaching them, discipling them, teaching them everything that I have commanded you. But that's for all of us. That's for the entire church, every believer. If we're depending on just missionaries to complete the Great Commission, um, it will not be completed. In fact, in a book that I've been reading recently by Steve Saint, son of Nate Saint, who was martyred in Ecuador, he said missionaries exist only because the local church doesn't exist. And it's the local church that will complete the Great Commission. And we send out missionaries to plant a group of local believers. Those are going to be the ones that make the disciples of all the nations of their community. So that's fresh on my mind, and I guess that would be the challenge and the reminder that the Great Commission is to all of us. We're all sent to. We're in this world as Christ's ambassadors, and wherever we are, we're called to be living out the Great Commission, making disciples of those around us. So that's that would be my final word and reminder and encouragement to my brothers and sisters in Christ to live out the Great Commission.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening or watching today with this conversation with Billy. It really was encouraging to hear how God is moving in media, how God is moving through the Hispanic people, through the Hispanic church, both here in the United States and around the world, not just in South America or North America, but in other parts of the world, and just how God has used him and his family, especially in the Middle East. And, afterwards, after the conversation, we talked a little bit about the place he had mentioned in the video about being invited someplace in Asia to do ministry. So he got to tell me where that was. I can't disclose where that's at, but it was actually pretty fascinating. And the cool thing is I've got colleagues who work there. So hopefully we'll be able to connect him and just let him engage with them as well. And hopefully one of our mutual friends is going with them. And I just love how God is moving people from one part of the world to other parts of the world to live sent, to proclaim the gospel, to make disciples, to do all those things that we love. So I hope you were encouraged by this conversation. If you found value in it, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. Please like the video. If you're on YouTube especially, if you're on Apple or Spotify, please leave a comment. Please leave a favorable rating if you found it favorable. And if you're on YouTube, please leave a comment. We would love to engage with you. And if you have any suggestions on future episodes, on topics you would like to hear about or people you would like me to potentially interview, let me know. I'm all ears. I would love to have your input and your advice on this. So again, thank you for listening or watching. Thank you for giving me your time. And as we close with every episode, get out there, live bold, live courageous, and of course, live Enviado.